Hello and welcome to this lecture. So in this lecture we'll talk about the dictionaries. So dictionaries is the most powerful data structure in the Python and probably the most of the programmers' favorite data structures. So in this lecture we'll see how this dictionary work and how to create them, and we'll also see how to use them. Let's get into it. So first open your cell, Python cell, and if you ever use real life dictionary, you have a bunch of words and each word has a definition in the dictionary. People look up that word and they get the word definition. So Python dictionary works on the similar way. First you look up the keys and you get the values out of that keys. So let's see how this dictionary are made. So let's create the empty dictionary first. Let me say employee, that is the dictionary name, and it is started, or we created here empty dictionary. Basically this curly bracket is to create the dictionary, the same symbol you use for the string formatting, but they are not linked at all, it's the same symbol. So let's define a keys and a value here. So let me just press enter, and if you see here first a dictionary, that is employee dictionary, and you could see this is empty dictionary. So dictionary contains basically key and a values pair. So let's define a key and a value pair for this employee, which will basically have something that is name as in key and the age as in value. So let me say we have Mary first. So this Mary, me say Mary, and this Mary has age 24. So you always put keys and a value in this code. So basically Mary is a string, so you put in this code, and values are basically here as a number, so you don't have to put values that is number in this code. But what if we have a string, then you should also put these values in the code. So let me define another that is keys and value, and let me say I have Gru, and he has the age, let me say 40. And if you see here format, you could see something that is you have a key and you have a colon and you have a values, and each key and value pair are separated by these commas. And let me just add a few here. Let me say Dan, and he has age 43, and similarly I'll say next agent Shira, and she has age 30. So when you hit enter now, your dictionary is created. So when I just print this employee, you could see your dictionary, that is basically key and value pair, key and value, key and value. So you could see here something that is you have a code in this key, and values are basically numbers. So in the number you don't provide any code. So what if we just don't provide here within code? So what if I just say, let me just make another dictionary, let me say it is an error dictionary, and let me say without this code I'll make a Mary here, and she's 40, and I'll also make this Dan, and he's 89. So let me make this dictionary, and when I just press enter, you could see name error here. So name Mary is not defined because it is searching for the variable here as in Mary. Instead of making the dictionary, it is just searching for this value that is Mary and Dan variable. So it is saying Mary is not defined. So it is really important to put a code in this key and a value pair while making the dictionary. So it is really important while making this dictionary, don't forget to put this code here. So we'll just print now our previous employee dictionary, and we have something that is key and a value pair here. So how to look up the value in this dictionary? That means while we were dealing with the list, you could do normally with the indexes. In the case of a dictionary, you do it with the key. So that means you first reference your value, that is this dictionary, and give this square bracket, and in this square bracket, in the case of list, you have something that is indexes, and that was started from O, but in this case you have something that is key. So you just pass your key, and this key should be inside this code. So when I say just Mary, that means you have just key here as on Mary, and when I just hit enter, it should provide you 24. That means this value is 24 of Mary. What if I want to get the Sierra value? That means I'll just call this employee again, and just I pass here that is Sierra, and the key should be exactly the same as you have here. So if you just make any typo, so what if I say, if I just make here in a lowercase Sierra, then you could see something that is a key error, Sierra is not defined. So there is no key basically in this dictionary. So in order to add another item to the dictionary, what if I want to add in this employee, if any employee is added, so that can be done easily in this dictionary. That is, first you reference this dictionary in order to add and just give the key. So what if new member of employee is added? So let me say Ham is a new employee, and if he is added, so first you should give this key and just give his age. So let me see, 23, and new employee has been added now. So when you just print that employee, you could see Ham has been added here. That is basically you give this employee and just give the key, what you want to add, and the value. So key and value pair should be given in order to add the new data to the dictionary. So if you want to update the values, you can also do that. Just get the reference by key and assign new value to it like this. So if I say something that is, I want to update the value of a Guru, that is his age is now, let me say his age 41, then you can just assign a 41 to his key. So that means when I just press here 41, you can now just say employee, and you could see something that is Guru age has been now changed from 40 to 41. So you could do this easily by just replacing this value in the same key. So it should be the same key here. So if you just misplace this key, you can get something that is key error here. So you can also delete some key from the dictionary. In order to do that, you have something that is del command, and you could just pass here employee and just give the key here. So let me say just remove this Dan here. So if you just delete it and just print it again, your employee dictionary, you could see there is no Dan now. So it basically deletes the key and the associated values with it. That means Dan and the values has been deleted. So now when we look up this employee here, so when I say that is, if I just want to see the record of it Dan again, which is not present now in this dictionary, it is going to show you something that is key error here. So we can also get all keys from basically our dictionary. So in order to get all the keys, you just pass here employee, that is your dictionary, and the function that is keys function. So just pass here that is employee. Let me do it quick, employee.keys, and you just give the function here, and when you just hit enter, it gives a data structure that is dict key and all of your key, that is Mary, Gru, Sierra, and Ham. So basically this dict key is a structure that is iterable but not indexable. So we cannot extract each item from here independently. So what if I say here something that is, let me get a key. So let me say employee.keys. So this will basically give you dict keys. And what if I want to just extract Mary from here, that is at index 0. So when I do it, it is saying dict key object does not support indexing, but it can be iterable. So in order to get the indexing, or in order to get the item, we have to convert this dict key into the list. So what you can do instead is you just create a variable where the list will be stored and just pass here a list function. So this list function will create something that is list out of these dict keys. So what you passed here is employee, that is what you are getting this dict keys, and that will be from keys function and just pass it here in the A. So when you just print A now, you could see something that is list here, because this has been converted into the list by this list function. Now when you reference this A from O, then you can get Mary, because we are now converted our list, that is our dictionary, into the list, and lists are basically indexable. Similarly, we can also extract the values that are here 24, 41, 30 and 23 like we did here, but we have something that is a function here, and that function is values function. When you just pass this values function, you are going to get again this dict values as an structure which contain all of these value. Like before, in this case there is a dict keys, and this was also not indexable, it was only the iterables. That means you can loop in these dict keys. Similar to that, these dict values are also not indexable. That means you just can't index these values. Let me give you a quick example here. That is when you say employee.values, and let me just get the values first, and let me just get this value. Okay, let me just get 30, that is at 2. Then you are saying that dict values is a structure in which the object does not support indexing. So for this too, you can convert this dict values to list that we did here, and you can just convert to list and get reference with the index. So unlike tuple or the list, one thing to note about the dictionary is it doesn't have order, so you cannot reference it by the index. What you should is you should reference it by the keys that we have done here. So basically it doesn't have any order. So what if you see here, that is we have here Mary, Grew, Dan and Sierra. So when you print multiple times, this order are interchangeable. That means the order really doesn't matter with the dictionary. But tuples and lists, the order has to be exactly the same as we defined in creating the list. But in the case of a dictionary, order can be altered. So last thing I want to mention here is converting dictionary to the tuples. So let me just make a space here. So how can we convert the dictionary into the tuples? So let me say we have this employee dictionary, and I want to convert this employee dictionary into the tuples, because dictionary are likely to be not iterables, and we have to convert into some list or some tuples which is more manageable. So in order to do that, we have to just convert this dictionary into the tuples. So this can be done easily by the function that is items function. So let me see, first we just get this employee, that is our dictionary, and just call item here. This item functions basically converts our dictionary, that is employee dictionary, into the tuples. So when I just hit enter, you can see tuples here out of these dict items, and these tuples are basically an structure like this we have here. While creating this dictionary, we have this curly braces, but instead of curly braces you have something that is this parenthesis. So inside this parenthesis, key and value are maintained like this dictionary, and tuples are more manageable because they are more iterable and they can also support the indexable. So they are also the indexable and they are also iterables. So most of the data types that we can use while making the games will be this tuple, because they are more manageable and they are also likely to be indexable and iterable. So this will be the wrap for this video. See you in the next.